Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven, this is Northwest Small Batch Brewing, and I'm going to fly through this as quickly as I can because I got a lot to get to. I don't know why I'm taking my glasses off. It is hot. It is really hot in my house. It's hot outside. I'm sweaty. Yeah, and I've got Kleenex because allergies. Hello. So anyway, if you're not living under a rock, you probably noticed that there was a collaboration recently between Trent over at Brew Show and Steven over at the Apartment Brewer. They made a beer called a Graff. And about a year ago, Trent over at Brew Show made a Graff as well. So this is his second time. So what they did, well, first of all, it's a made-up beer. A Graff is, I guess, I'd never heard of it before, but apparently it's a beer that Stephen King made up for one of his novels. And it's like part beer, part hard cider. So you can choose what style of beer you want to try to do, and you add the hard cider to it. So during the collaboration, Brew Show and Apartment Brewer basically did a random beer style that they didn't get to choose. And it was really unfortunate that they ended up with two beer styles that I felt was just, they had no chance of having a decent beer with those beer styles for this type of beer. So I made a comment that I thought, I wonder if, a Kolsch could be good. A Kolsch tends to be pretty clean and it ferments pretty low. And so I put that, and Trent said, let's see what you come up with. And so I have accepted his challenge. This is my challenge accepted video, my version of a Graff. Now I have a lot of benefits from this, and I'm going to go through all the ingredients first and explain what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to give you a super fast, short and shoddy rundown of my brew day, because that's all I have time for. Yes, that was a random reference to Martin Keane, and we'll go from there. So mine's going to be a oatmeal wheat Graff. Why, do you ask? I just like to pronounce it that way, because if you look at the end of the video between Trent and Steven, what they determined was, for one thing, their beers fermented out pretty dry. And so there was not a lot of body from what they were saying. It was fairly thin, not very much, if any, residual sweetness. And I think that Trent actually made one version where he did some back sweetening to try to fix that. So I get the benefit of knowing how theirs turned out, plus I get to choose my beer style. And so I chose oatmeal wheat because I'm thinking mouthfeel, right? I'm thinking wheat, oatmeal will give it good mouthfeel, hopefully. And the other thing is that there's nothing written in stone. In fact, the one that Trent did a year ago, he specifically said that you don't have to do 50-50, like 50% cider, 50% beer. You can do a different ratio. So I want to do a different ratio because I don't think that's going to turn out good. So I'm going to do like 2/3 beer, 1/3 cider. Now that I've got all this out here, I can explain a little bit what I'm going to do regarding the juice. I've done a lot of ciders, so I have some tricks up my sleeve for ciders. The first, of course, is what you've already seen, which is yeast nutrients. You need about double the amount of yeast nutrient you normally use because there is really no nutrient for your yeast in juice. So it needs extra help. Secondly, so if you're not familiar, there's a lot of methanol in juice, even in apples. Like if you just eat an apple straight up, and that lends to being kind of nasty tasting in the final product. So look, I'm gonna go make this beer, or get it started anyway, and I'll show you a quick summary of the brew day. All right, step one is mill the grain. I've got 2.89 pounds of Great Western two-row, 1.97 pounds of American white wheat, and 0.37 pounds of Breeze Carapils. After the mill, I threw in 1.62 pounds of Flaked Oats and a handful of rice hulls. Set your strike temperature and mash in at 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. Drain the main grain. It's not healthy to hold it in, folks. 60-minute addition, 0.8 ounces of Saaz. 20-minute addition, same thing, 0.8 ounces of Saaz hops. 10-minute addition, 1.27 ounces of Saaz hops, plus your yeast nutrient, plus, if you want to, your Warflick. All right, let's make this a Graff. Add 1.5 gallons of apple juice with no preservatives.
Bro, we figure we's a little juice.
No, we think that juice.
With your wort now at pitching temperature, it is time to transfer your wort to your favorite fermenter. And now it's time to aerate the wort, so shake the bejesus out of it, just like Beavis.
Butthead, I think it's probably ready now. Keep shaking, dillhole. It's gotta be really, really shook up. I know, but, I've been shaking for a long time. A really long time. Just keep shaking it, Beavis.
Time to pitch the yeast. I'm using Lallemand Windsor British style beer yeast.
One eternity later.
So I went ahead and transferred the beer from the fermenter into a bottling bucket to make it a little easier to bottle. Okay, so it's time to bottle this up. I decided to bottle because I don't want necessarily an entire keg hogging up my one tap. Graff oatmeal wheat. So it's been 2 weeks. It's been conditioning, bottle conditioning. Man, it looks nice and super clear in the glass. I gotta revisit the numbers on this one to see where we're at. So 1051 original, final gravity 1014. So it definitely had some residual sweetness left over, which is what I was aiming for. 4.9%. I kept it under 5. How about that? Here we go. Yeah, a little bit of carbonation for sure. Here we go. First I was thinking, man, I'm not too happy with the head retention. I mean, I didn't expect it to have good head retention, you know. Oops. You know, because it's mostly, you know, cider just does not have head retention, but I got it. I'm pretty pleased with that, considering it's clear. I can smell some of it, but not bad. Now I recall that it was cloudy, the juice. The head retention dissipates pretty fast, but let's see. Hey. Okay. Hang on. So first of all, yeah, really good carbonation. It didn't sound like it would have had that much when I opened it, but no, it's good carbonation. It is thin. And it was something I was concerned about. I put the oats in specifically to try to help with that. This may sound weird, but I think that you could actually put some glycerin in this, and that might help. But it's very refreshing. Honestly, I almost like this better than standard apple cider. The more, like, as I continue to drink it, I'm getting more of the apple flavor, but it's not like the clingingly sweet apple flavor you can get from really sweetened hard apple ciders. But there's residual sweetness from the malt. If you're going to make a Graff, I think this is what you got to kind of go for. So you really have to think outside the box to get the mouthfeel, head retention, how you're going to get a little bit of residual sweetness left in it. Man, this is good. This was a good style to pick for this kind of beer. I would say challenge 1. Here's to you, Trent and Steven, over at Apartment Brewer and Brew Show. Cheers.